Bom dia, boa noite. A gente está com mais um LongeTalks e agora muito feliz porque estamos fazendo ao vivo, né, gravando com o Philips e é um grande prazer, né, estar aqui. Principalmente ele foi meu professor na psicologia positiva há 4 anos atrás e eu pude conhecer muito o trabalho dele e depois se consolidou quando, através da Juliana, que também já esteve no LongeTalks, pôde falar sobre o trabalho. Sejam bem-vindos. Eu vou passar a bola para a Ju, porque meu inglês não é tão bom, mas eu acompanhei tudo e está tudo tranquilo. Muito obrigada.
Obrigada, pessoal. Então vamos começar as perguntas para o Philip de Fruit. So, Philip, I'm gonna ask you the first question, right?
I'm ready.
So, how can understanding personality traits influence the integration and collaboration of professionals over 50 years old in diverse teams within organizations?
Well, that's a challenging one. I guess the last 10 years we learned a lot about what we call normative personality development. So this is really the kind of developmental trajectory that most people are following from a young age until they are 60, until they are 70. So now we have actually a pretty good idea about this kind of development, and I think that this is really very helpful for the world of work, and especially when it comes to employment of people of 50 plus. With getting older, we are getting more emotional stable, we are getting also more agreeable, and we are also getting a little bit higher on conscientiousness. And these are actually all personality traits that really help us function in the labor market. So I think this kind of knowledge is very important, and is really a big step forward, and it provides a little bit of counter evidence to all the literature and all the talks on LinkedIn and other social media on Gen Z and Gen X and Gen Y and so on differences there. Really what science is showing, and there's a recent meta-analysis published in the Journal of Organizational Behavior of Revit and Costanza, and that really shows that there are no generational differences. Yeah? So we need to look at other types of explanations, and I think personality differences are one option, but of course we are living in changed realities. Yeah? Which is not saying that these are reliable generational differences. So I think this is really a very important thing that science can contribute to this.
Okay, yeah, very good, interesting, right? Okay, and in your perspective, what are the biggest challenges faced by professionals over 50 in contemporary work environments, and how can they overcome these obstacles?
Okay, so I really think that there's a changed reality nowadays, how we think about the world of work and what we are really looking for in people we want to have. Many years ago, and I see it still in many job advertisements, people came with these long wish lists. A bunch of characteristics that people needed to have or that they were looking for. And in all honesty, I was often thinking, who is actually complying to all this? They had 20 different types of characteristics they were looking for, and the majority of us are probably good in 3 or 4 things and mediocre in a bunch of other skills or competencies. So I really think that this is a kind of changed reality now due to also changes on the labor market, that organizations more focus on the must-haves. 3 or 4 main characteristics that you need to have to collaborate For example,
Yes.
the two of us are already collaborating for about 5 years, and we need a couple of skills together, and we need to be alike on these skills together to be able to function and to work like we will do today. But on top of that, I think we live from heterogeneity. You are much, much better than I am in IT. You learn me stuff on LinkedIn, on all technical kind of things. I am not particularly good in designing stuff. So if I have someone spicing up and coloring my PowerPoint presentations, that's very good to have someone in my team like this. So I think we need to focus first on the must-haves, and then on top of that, there's huge variability, huge variety. And I think that's a changed reality, and this variety, of course, helps us not only as people, but also as organizations in being more flexible in terms of all the changes that come to us. The past 3 months, for example, due to all the geopolitical and economic stuff and a new president in the US really hit us in Europe really hard and across the world. So we need to be flexible. In a couple of weeks' time, if you are working in a business, all at once something can happen that is really shaking up everything. And then I think it's good to have a mixture of and to have diversity in organizations. So we will need to find each other on a couple of critical elements, not 20, but maybe 3 or 4, which are crucial to work together. And on top of that, we will need heterogeneity, diversity is another term that is frequently used. And I think also mature people or people with 50 plus in age, they will bring their experience, they know better, they have been around on the labor market for already 20 years, they have experience, they are a little more relaxed, they collaborate, they are punctual, and so on and so forth. So I really think that this is a very nice but also a necessary addition in terms of functioning of organizations and people, and also in terms of our survival and adaptation to all the challenges we are dealing with.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest things to find out which are these core competences, right? And which could be the other ones. Yeah, so, and how can competency assessment and the individual value perception be adjusted to support the career development of older professionals, especially in career transitions or changes?
Yeah, I think one of the key problems that people who are already a little bit on the labor market, one of their problems is that they have worked for a particular time in a job. They have a diploma, and then they have worked, for example, 10 to 12 years in a particular job. And all at once they need to reconsider that because their job is not there anymore, it's replaced by something else, or they need to go to another organization. And then all at once they are faced with the question, what will I do? What are my options? And then secondly, what are really my key strengths? What are really my key skills? And I think these two basic questions are critical. I always call them the what and the how question. And this is really, really important that we design tools and that we support people actually not only thinking in terms of what they have been doing for 10 to 12 years, but that we help them in translating this kind of experience into a skill language, and also that we help them in reconsidering the broad variety of interests that many of them have, but they are just thinking in terms of, oh yeah, I studied engineering and I worked for 12 years in company A and that was my job. That actually I remember a case, a person came to me and said that was at the beginning of COVID. He said, well, I lost my job this morning, and I asked him, what have you done? And he said, I worked there in that function, and it stopped. And then 2 days later, I organized a session with him and did some assessments. And so to really see all the variety of the things he has done, and I helped him in labeling. He had a very, very rich experience history. But yeah, we as psychologists or sociologists, labor sociologists, we have a language to label all this. Whereas that person, yeah, was just stuck. He said, I've done this, and that's about it. So it's really about, I think, giving people, again, a richness in terms of evaluating and describing the variety of their interests. And then in the second piece of the answer is really looking, what are you good at? What are eventually things you lack that you still need to develop if you want to do something new or want to move in a different direction? So I think assessment is really necessary to help and to support people. Yeah. And that's part of what we will do here this week, also in Sao Paulo, is introducing a tool in various methodologies to help adults, but also younger people with this kind of questions.
Yeah, very good. And if this person is not open to learn, right?
Yeah.
So the, how to say, lifelong learner. If the person is not a lifelong learner, then it's much more difficult to go through.
This is a very correct point, and also for people 50 plus, how their challenge will be, they have been living in a time where there are changes, but now changes go so fast.
Yeah.
And the critical piece, but that applies for the young people as well. Young people will face a career of 50 years. Yeah? And the changes are now already going so dramatically fast that they will have to prepare on how they will learn across these 50 years, how they will keep themselves motivated, active. And this is why it is so important not only to focus on your skills, on what you can do well or what you need to develop, but also in terms of focusing on what you want to do at a certain time in your life.
How can the Lola test help senior professionals identify their transferable skills during a career transition? And how can this impact their opportunities in the job market?
Well, like I said, Lola is really a tool that helps people explore options. It's not a prescriptive tool. If you fill it in, at the end of it, it will not say you need to do this or you need to do that. No. What we do is we use a scientifically developed model, and we look in a very comprehensive way in terms of what you like and dislike. We look at your more superficial interests, the things you think, oh yeah, that looks attractive. But we also look at your more what we call anchored interests. So these are really the kind of things you love to do even when it's getting difficult or when it's getting tough. For example, yesterday it was very sunny here in Sao Paulo. If you then ask people, it was around 2025, if you then would ask people on Avenida Paulista, are you interested in walking and in running or in doing the gardening or outdoor activities, everyone will say yes. It's not too hot, it's nice, and so on and so forth. But I'm living in Belgium where it rains a lot. Well, people who still say, I love this kind of activity when it rains, I still love to do it, they have what we call anchored interests. So we really look at this and from a very broad spectrum. So the idea is that people need to reconsider their options. Think about the person I was talking about who was losing his job after 12 years. Well, he had to reconsider his options. And you can compare it with the beltway around a major city. Think about Sao Paulo. Assume that there would be a beltway around the city. That person, for example, took the direction of Rio de Janeiro, so to speak, in terms of what he had been doing. But what our Lola tool is actually doing is bringing people back on the beltway around Sao Paulo to consider all the options. And maybe he has to look in the direction of Porto Alegre. I'm giving the good orientation, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really about reconsidering your options, and this is what we need to do in terms of sustainable employability. If you're 50 and you still need to add 15 years or 17 years or even more to your career, you better do something that you like to do. And our tool really helps in figuring out what you like, what you dislike, and then if you use this kind of input and you have a good career coach, he or she can then help you in seeing what the options are, and then also in seeing and evaluating together with you if you also have the skills. For example, sometimes people are saying to me, hey, I'm interested in taking more a leadership kind of role. And then I'm often asking people, hey, are you really interested in doing that? And then I look into their Lola profile, and indeed they say, I'm interested more in leading, but they, for example, don't have a real social interest. They are not really interested in people. So this is really an element that the test gives us, or that the instrument is giving us. You say you love leading, but you are not really interested in people. Leading is all about working with people, and on top of that, a bunch of other things. Have you realized that leading is also doing the work you are doing right now, and then solving a bunch of extra things on top of that? So you really need to like it, and then comes the question, do you have the skills to do it? So what Lola is actually doing is really giving input to this kind of process. So people start thinking about these options and what they need to fulfill everything. What we really need to avoid, and that applies to young people, but also to people of 50 and 50 plus, that is that you engage too quickly, or you go too quickly in a process of what we call foreclosure, that you close your options. And then you get stuck in something. Sometimes you are in a job which is really not what you like to do, but the colleagues, for example, are nice. And you're in a home situation where you have two children that need to grow up, and your partner already has a busy job, and you say, well, all in all, it's fine for me here. But then all at once, the boss is changing, you get another boss, and some of the colleagues are leaving, and you can be stuck in a situation. And then if you haven't been preparing for that in the meantime, you're lost, more or less. And this is what we need to avoid. And that applies to young people, but that certainly also applies to people of 50. If you're 50 today, you still need to work a long time. Yeah. So you better keep options open, and you better work on a system, and organizations and the government need to support that. You better work on a system. I checked it over lunch. In Brazil, you have 40 million people in between 50 and 67. 40 million people, yeah, that's a lot.
Yes.
And 36%, your inactive rate is 36%. In my country, it's 20.9%. Yeah. So this is how, that's a big challenge for a society here, how we will keep these 40 million people in one or another way active.
and that's why we have to be open to the competences that we have to develop. Look into the world, but also like into ourselves, because we are changing, the world is changing, and we all as well, right?
Yes.
So that's why self-knowledge is very important through all the entire development cycles. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are here the full week to talk about questions like this. So thank you for the invitation, and I think we hear each other in the future, and I'm very happy to collaborate with everyone interested in a team like this. I think we need to join forces here and learn from each other's expertise.